Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My wife and I have been together since college and got married a little while after she graduated. When we first got together, she told me she didn't really like kids, and while I was a little disappointed, I didn't care too much about it. I didn't feel very strongly about it either way. We were very in love, and things were perfect for a good while. Her birth control failed 6 years ago, and I told her that I would support whatever choice she made. She scheduled an A, but backed out the day before, and we became loving and enthusiastic parents. Later on down the road, she decided she wanted another child, and so we had our second daughter. They are 5 and 3 years old and absolutely perfect. They are both very well behaved and ahead of the curve for kids their age. Another thing that's worth mentioning, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. My job is very demanding and I'm out of town for week-long stretches at a time once a month, and then 9 to 6 the rest of the month. I've had this schedule since we were married basically. I make good money, in the low 6 figures, and we've never had any kind of financial struggles. For the past few months, I've known something was up with my wife. She is obviously the primary caretaker of our daughters, but recently she's been completely hands-off when I'm at home. I don't mind spending the extra time with my daughters taking care of them, but it's more than that. She will completely ignore them while I'm around. If they ask her for anything at all, she tells them, "Go ask Daddy," and we'll go in our bedroom and lock the door to get away from them. I've been asking her if she's all right, and she's been insisting everything was fine until last night. After we put the kids to bed, she came to me and sat down at the table. She started talking about fun things we had done right after we got married. What a great adventure everything had been, just generally reminiscing. She was being sweet and funny and loving, and my guard was down. She said back before we had the girls, we could do anything we wanted. I wish we could go back to that. I asked her what she meant. After much prodding, she admitted that she regretted having kids. I said that there were times where I felt overwhelmed too, but that I would always love our daughters. She got quiet. She mumbled something, and I asked her to say it again. She yelled, "I don't love them," and then started sobbing. I sat there with my mouth hanging open. She composed herself and then started talking again. She was saying how she had been looking into adoption agencies and foster care. She had contacted one agency already. She was making plans to give away my children. I continued to listen, too dumbfounded to say a word, as she babbled on about how amazing it's going to be to have our lives back, how great our relationship will be when we don't have kids anymore. I didn't know what to do. I let her talk herself out, and when she went to bed, I went and got my babies, packed some things, and drove to my mother's house. I called in sick to work today. I told them I'd probably be out the rest of the week. I have a ton of missed calls, voicemails, and texts from my wife. I haven't looked at any of them. I've spent the day talking to my mom about things and keeping the girls occupied. My mom doesn't know what to do either. I'm thinking I have a couple of options. Start calling lawyers or start calling mental health professionals. Maybe both. I don't know if she's having some kind of psychotic delusion or if she's just that awful of a person. I really don't want to go back home to her now, ever. I'm thinking divorce is the best choice, but I can't take care of my kids on my own. What should be my next move? Should I try to call my wife? Edit. Additional info. She's not at home all the time with them. They go to pre-K for 6 hours a day for 4 days a week. My mom takes them pretty much every other weekend. She gets a lot of time to herself, even though it could be more. And on nights when I'm home, she goes out with her friends often. And lately when I'm home, she doesn't see the kids at all. It's still possible that she's overwhelmed, but she's not the isolated, barefoot and pregnant, chained to the stove woman you're picturing here. We've both always been pretty low libido. I would say we have sex once a week, and we try to have a date night every other week, leaving the girls with my mother. We are very affectionate towards one another. She graduated with an art degree. When we first got married, she was working as a teacher. She taught English and art at a local high school. She hated it, and she quit when she was pregnant with our first. She has a studio in our house, basically an extra bedroom with all her art stuff in it that the kids aren't allowed in, and she paints when the kids are out of the house. She feels like her degree is useless, but told me she wasn't interested in going back to school. We used to pay for a weekly maid service, but my wife decided she didn't want to spare the expense. I'm just looking for input right now. Honestly, I feel like her response to this situation was completely out of line and nearly unbelievable, and I'm not sure I want to continue a relationship with someone who considers giving away her kids before even asking for help. She has consistently denied that anything was wrong and apparently put up a front to make me think that she wasn't struggling. OP's wife sounds like she has a serious problem. OP did the right thing to take the kids and leave the house. She was contacting an adoption agency, and her talk about leading a life without the kids certainly was giving me some chills down the spine. OP needs to get her help before he lets her near the kids again. She is sick, has fantasies living without them. She says she does not love them. It will not hurt her if she has some time off them. I hope this is a temporary state. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Joker's Harlequin says, I think she's completely at fault here. Yes, she may need professional help. Yes, she may be burned out, but for God's sake, she already called an agency behind OP's back. She's already started the steps towards getting rid of their children. Right now, he needs to make sure his children are safe and together with him. His wife made a decision to not have the first A, and she wanted to have a second child. She's now making the decision to get rid of their children because she regrets it. I understand that she's overwhelmed, that she may be completely burned out, or that she may have never wanted children. But the fact that she took that step without speaking to her husband about it beforehand is sickening, and then continued on to talk about how their lives will go back to the way it was before and all the stuff they could do. Linjamin08 says, just out of curiosity, I know the girls are little, but have you asked them how mommy is when you're not there? Not to say she would neglect them, but that's just an interesting situation to me. What's life like when dad is gone? I think you're doing the right thing removing the girls from the situation. It sounds like she needs some sort of help. I hope it works out for all of you. Good luck, dude. You sound like a pretty good dad. Godai says, I don't know why everyone is being so hard on you for taking your babies over to your mom's place when your wife had been contacting adoption agencies without you. That is nuts. Totally nuts. Your reaction is completely understandable. Holy crap. That said, I think that marriage counseling and individual counseling are in order, and a nanny. Edited to add, keep your kids at your mom's place as long as you can. They shouldn't be around your wife if it can be avoided. Also, talk to a lawyer. If you divorce your wife, what would the alimony situation be like? I mean, I feel like you ought to be given primary custody if it comes to that. And if you're making six figures, you can probably hire someone to help you take care of them. Update. This update is going to be long. A lot of really crazy stuff has happened. I'm in the process of finding a live-in nanny now, and I appreciate everyone who suggested it. Yesterday, I contacted a lawyer for advice, and then bit the bullet and called my wife. One of my close friends lives a few houses down, so I explained the situation and had him on standby. I left my daughters with my mom and came back to the house to meet with her. She was absolutely furious. The first words out of her mouth were, "Where the duck have you been, you piece of crap?" When I got to the house, she berated me for leaving without saying a word to her or answering the phone. She accused me of cheating on her, called me a pig and an a-hole, and ranted for a good 15 minutes straight. She didn't say a word about the kids, didn't ask me where they were or if I had taken them. It's like she had forgotten they existed. I cut her off, told her where I had been and that I had taken the girls to my mother's house. She seemed caught off guard. She asked me why. I explained to her that the way she had talked about adopting them out was not acceptable, and since she didn't care about them, I didn't think they were safe around her. She blinked and said, word for word, "Wait, you want to keep them? Don't you love me?" I lost it. I'm not proud of it, but I couldn't hold it together, Reddit. It devolved into a screaming fight, with me telling her she was ducking insane, and her yelling that I didn't love her. I went through the house and packed up all my valuables and personal documents, with her screaming her head off at me the whole time. My friend came in to try to calm her down, but she threw a plate at him and told him to get the duck out. At this point, I called the cops. She dug her hole deeper by punching one of the cops and then biting the other once she was cuffed. I'm now 100% certain that she's having some kind of psychotic break. She will be evaluated soon, but either way, I'm going through with the divorce. I doubt I'll have any trouble getting full custody, especially with that call to the adoption agency on her phone records. After my wife was arrested, I cleaned up the house and brought my daughters back home. They haven't asked where mommy is yet, but I don't know what to tell them when they do. I'm looking into taking a lower responsibility role at work, at least where I'm not gone for a whole week at a time. I will still be heavily relying on a nanny, but I can't stand the thought of my daughters not having a parent there to put them to bed every night. Update 2. My wife has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She is undergoing extensive therapy and trying to work out her legal issues as well. I'm still not sure what direction that is going to take. My wife's parents have been helping her with legal arrangements as she refuses help from me and didn't even want to use my insurance to help with her medical bills. She ended up having to anyway, and I've been sending her parents money to help with paying what's left over. We mutually decided to go ahead with the divorce. She didn't want custody of our daughters, or even visitation. I practically begged her to at least come to their birthdays and holidays, but she said no. I'm hoping that it's a symptom of her illness, and that once she progresses through her treatment enough, she will change her mind, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I found a wonderful nanny who is fantastic with my daughters. According to her, they're very self-sufficient and don't need much help with keeping themselves entertained or anything really. I suspect my wife had been ignoring the girls even when I wasn't around. They've been constantly asking me when mommy is coming back, and I don't know what to tell them. I have to try really hard not to cry in front of them because I don't want them to worry about me. We've been going to family therapy together, but still haven't found a way to explain that mommy might never come back. Or she may show back up and not be nice. Or she may show back up and be her old self again. My friend, the one she threw a plate at, and his wife and kids have been hanging out at my place a lot to keep us all company. He's been a godsend throughout this whole experience. He decided not to press charges against my wife for the plate thing. So I, 17 male, found out only a few weeks ago that my dad left me a lot of money in a trust. Like, it's such a crazy amount that I didn't really believe it at first. But it's true. The reason is, my dad had inherited from both his parents already. He also inherited from the only 2 uncles he had as well, and one of them was very successful and had a business. This was all explained in a letter my dad wrote me. He had the trust set up before he came into most of the money, but when he found out his cancer was incurable, he decided to put it all aside for me once the medical bills are paid off for him. My parents were separated, but not legally divorced when my dad was sick, died. But they weren't living together for a couple of years. This was 10 years ago. My mom found out about the money because she read the letter he sent to me about the issue. Then she insisted she was joining me to meet with the lawyer to discuss this. When my mom found out about the money, she told her husband, and suddenly the money became a very touchy subject. I can't touch it until I'm 19 with the way my dad set it up. So I have some time to deal with this. But my mom and her husband want me to share the money with my step-siblings, 14, 8, and 7. The money is enough where even if I pay for college and buy a house, I would have money left. The way the trust works, I was told it's also getting interest, which my dad had intentionally set up. My mom and her husband have struggled financially for years. They started dating when his youngest kid was 1. His wife had died. He was going through a legal battle with the mother of his oldest, and his oldest is in therapy for trauma caused by their mom. Also, his youngest was born with some medical issues and has lots of doctor's appointments. Between everything, money was tight. We live paycheck to paycheck, and I worked to make my own life a little more comfortable. But we had no college savings or anything before this. My mom and her husband drained their own bank account to keep a roof over our heads. This has all been brought up to me as a good reason why I should do this. My mom told me it was selfish for my dad to put it all away solely for my future, and he should have been thinking about raising me as well. She told me I might not call her husband dad, or his kids my siblings, but we are a family, and that this family has been through so much together, and we have struggled for so long, that it would be good and generous for me to do this. I told her it's not like I can access the money now. She said no, but when I do, I should set up accounts for my 3 step-siblings, so they have a better chance at college, and if not college, the chance to have a help start in life. Despite all their trying to talk me into it, I said no. I told them I wasn't going to share the money. My mom was so mad, but it was nothing compared to how mad her husband was. They told me to quit being selfish and start acting with compassion. Am I the a-hole? Kronk LaSwarta says, not the a-hole, but get the hell out of that house. Is there a sibling of your dad's you can move in with? Invest every cent of that money though. Talk to a financial advisor. Also, make sure to keep your birth certificate, driver's license, and any other IDs and documents where they can't hold them over your head. Iron Beagle 01 says, not the a-hole. So your mom's new husband is mad you aren't giving money to his children with your mother? This money came from your father. That was not their father, it was yours. This is whom your father wanted the money to go to. Explain to your mother that if they are going to punish you for doing exactly what your dead father wanted, they can go fly a kite. Mom should also ask her new husband to stay out of it. He isn't your father. Gypsy Bug 135 says, "What they're asking isn't compassion. It's displacing the financial burden of raising his children onto you. If you have no emotional drive to share, then please do not do it. Your mother is responsible for the cost of raising you. Full stop. You don't owe her for her choice to have and raise you. She has made decisions that got her and her husband where she is. It's not your job to mitigate her life. Your dad was smart. He made sure your mother cannot ruin your future. He guaranteed safety for you. Now take advantage of his forethought and thrive, not the a-hole."